In 2008, Morgan Garza walked into what would become one of the most devastating terrorist attacks in modern history, the Mumbai attacks. Inside the chaos of the Taj Hotel, survival wasn't a choice. It was instinct. But what nobody talks about is what happens after you survive something like that. Because for Morgan, the battle didn't end when the gunfire fell silent. That's when it truly began within her own mind. Welcome back to Shit Creek Survivors, where we share real stories of people getting stuck up Shit Creek, the paddles that got them out, and hope for anyone stuck up their own Shit Creek right now. Today's story is one of survival, trauma, and transformation. This is Morgan. Morgan, thank you so much for being here. It is such a blessing. And if you would, just tell us a little bit about yourself before the Shit Creek.
Thanks, Cameron. I'm so excited to be here and to share this story. And I'm sure a lot of people understand that sharing stories like this, just like you shared yours with mine before we came on, can be re-traumatizing and triggering. So I do want to honor that it takes a lot of bravery to come and talk about the thing that nearly broke you and took you out. For me, my Shit Creek, I guess before my Shit Creek started, I was young. I was in fashion school. I was 21. Really excited about the life ahead, living in LA, living club scene, partying all the time, had just graduated living it up, very young, had just graduated from FITM, the Fashion Institute of Design and Technology, or Design and Merchandising. And I had the whole world in front of me. I just gotten my first real job. I was working at an event planning company. One of my first events was at the Playboy Mansion, which for me, I was like, this is cool. And who knows where this is going? And this isn't exactly what I dreamed of doing after fashion school, but here we are. So I just landed this first job and my roommate passes away. And it was one of those situations where too much partying did her in, and she had a blend of too much cocaine and too much alcohol in her system. And that paired with the 2008 crash. I had gotten my first job in the beginning of 2008. Last hired, first fired was the kind of deal. So this happened in the same week. And so here I am, 22, 21 at the time, really unsure of what life had in store for me. I was living in LA, lost my roommate, lost my job, and didn't know what to do. So my parents came to LA and packed me up and moved me back to Phoenix. And I was like, there's no way that I am going to let this fashion dream go. I am living in Phoenix now. I can figure this out, even though we're at the beginning of a recession. We still didn't know how bad the recession was going to be at that point. And so I started looking for jobs. And the first job that I found from the FITM alumni website was for wholesale in Phoenix for this company that made scarves and t-shirts and graphic tees and just stuff like that had gotten a lot of press with Lindsay Lohan and kind of a lot of those A-listers at that time. So I forced myself on them and got the job of my dreams at 22 at this point. And was really excited, going to trade shows, doing wholesale, selling, working with the founder of the company as the assistant. And as the year progressed, we had to go to India, to Mumbai, to sample our fall line. So we did all of our production in Mumbai. It's something that my boss was really adamant about because she's Indian and she wanted to keep that culture and bring it to the West and be, the steward for this culture. So I'm so excited. I have my first real job. Second really, besides the one that I got fired from. And I get invited to go to this trip. And I am so excited. I've never been to India. I've traveled a bit. My parents love traveling. So I've been here and there, but nothing like this before. And I was so excited to go. This was like my big moment. And the day before I left, as excited as I was, I had a full breakdown and I was just crying, saying all of a sudden, I don't want to go. I had this terrible feeling. And at that time, at 22, I wasn't very in connection with my intuition, with my spirituality. I was partying a lot. I was just, moving through life. But I had this really strong prophetic feeling of terror, of fear, of just this really scared feeling of going to India. I pushed past it. The
Wow.
tickets were booked, my bag was packed, and I went. And the first few days were kind of weird. I wasn't sure what I was doing. Obviously, it wasn't like a fun travel trip like I wanted to be on, but it
Right.
was work. And we were sampling and we were going to all these meetings with suppliers and production team and other people around the city. And my boss is well connected there because she's from there. And so we had a busy schedule and we're just moving through, going through the motions. We were staying at the Taj Hotel, which is right on the harbor in Mumbai.
Okay.
And so at this point, we'd gone through meetings, we'd been there a week, we'd been shopping at the markets, going to the restaurants, doing all of the things that you would do and working. And the day that the terrorist attacks happened was November 26th. So it's Thanksgiving. Not only was
Yeah.
I on this big trip, but I was away from my family for a major holiday for the first time ever in my life.
Yeah.
And feeling really torn about that, of course, but still excited about the opportunity. Not sure why the vibes were funky in India up until that point. But
Hmm.
we got tarot readings that morning, the morning of November 26th.
Okay.
And so this woman comes to the hotel room. My boss's room is in the palace of the Taj Hotel. And she starts pulling out these tarot cards and she's giving us a reading and we're doing astrology and she's kind of doing everything all at once. And we joked later, which is not funny at this point, but we joked like, how could she not see what was about to happen, that the city was going to be engulfed in a terrorist attack? But
Right. I would
we,
guess I'd be wondering too.
you would think.
Yeah.
But so that didn't come up. So we get these tarot readings, we're going through, and as we're leaving the room in the palace of the Taj Hotel, going down the hallway, there's this door open. And
Hmm.
there's a large round table in it. It's just a regular hotel room. But there's a large round table in it, and there's a lot of men sitting around the table. And as we walk by, someone closes the door, looks out at us, and closes the door. We later come to find out that that was the masterminds of the terrorist attack. They were planning the day of what would come to be the most deadly terrorist attack on Indian soil in modern times.
Wow.
So as we have all these just like strange, I don't want to say premonitions, but it was just a strange vibe that whole day. And this was something that at that young age I do remember feeling. And it was something that my colleague and my boss and I were talking about. But we went through our day, we had meetings, we had dinner with clients that night. And so we just kept moving. So later that evening, we leave to go to the Oberoi Hotel, which is another large, beautiful luxury hotel in Mumbai. And they have several restaurants there, lots of high-end restaurants, just as the same as the Taj, but we were going to get a different scene.
Yeah.
And we sit down at one of the two restaurants in the lobby. So as you walk into the lobby of the Oberoi Hotel, there's two restaurants, one on the left and one on the right. And we are in the restaurant on the left, which is Italian. The restaurant on the right, India Jones, is like a Pan-Asian fusion.
Okay.
We're having dinner. We're all at this big round table. There's maybe 8 of us. And we have wine. We order food. Things are coming. And all of a sudden, we hear gunfire. But at the time, I didn't recognize it as gunfire. I grew up in Texas. I held a gun
Yeah.
by the time I was 8. I'm accustomed to shooting, but
Yeah.
I think I was just removed from the reality of what could possibly be going on in my head. Someone
Yeah.
had dropped a silver tray down the marble staircase that was at the end of the lobby, and I just
Yeah.
thought nothing of it. And then we hear it again. And as I turn to look at my boss, she is looking out the glass windows into the lobby and she says, "They're killing them." And the look on her face is just pure terror. It goes white. And by the time I turn around, my back is to the door. By the time I turn around to look and see what's going on, to look out the glass windows that point to the lobby, 2 staff members of the restaurant come swooping in, close these giant, ornate, carved doors at the
Hmm.
same time in unison, and everybody gets up and runs. And this is one of those things where you don't think, you just act.
Hmm.
I left my purse, I left my phone. My colleague still had her napkin in her hand, which we laughed about later. And we go, everybody in the restaurant goes through the restaurant, through the kitchen, into an adjacent ballroom. And in
Hmm.
this hotel, there's a lot of different passageways and rooms that are connected. So we luckily went into this adjacent ballroom and were hiding. What we could
Wow.
hear on the other side of the lobby in the hotel was everyone in India Jones being shot. And then the grenades started, and the whole building was shaking. You could smell the gunpowder. And we're not sure what's going on. At this point, we have no idea. The entire city is under siege. We
Hmm.
are all just huddled in this ballroom. I don't have my phone. I don't have my purse. I have nothing. Some of the people that we were at the table with grabbed their belongings, or the men had their phones in their pockets. So they're getting online, or at least as best as they could. This is 2008. There wasn't
Right.
smartphones at this point. Like if you were lucky, you had a BlackBerry, but otherwise it was a flip
Right.
phone. So
It's
we
like
were
a
pretty
Nokia.
removed. Yeah, it's a Nokia. So we're pretty removed from being able to connect with technology. In addition to that, service was bad because we're like at the bottom of this hotel, tucked into this ballroom. So
Hmm.
what we could learn, which took a while, was that the entire city was under siege. At first, I thought that it was some gang or something isolated to our specific location. We
Right.
come to
Yeah.
find out that the Taj Hotel is under attack, a very popular coffee shop, several restaurants, the train station, a very popular outdoor market. And this is when we start panicking. And I called home on someone's borrowed phone, which was also long distance,
Yeah.
to tell my family, hey, something's going on. I'm safe, but just so you know, I don't have my phone and I don't know when I'll be able to get it back.
Yeah.
So we're in the ballroom for probably another hour or so, and all of a sudden there's these huge bangs going on the door that leads out.
Hmm.
And everyone jumps, screams, runs. We all push up against the far wall to get away from where this sound is coming from these double doors that open. Come to find out, it was people trying to get into the bathroom that were in the ballroom with us. So while it was friendly at that time, there was that point that I thought, this is it. That
Hmm.
before I knew that it was people trying to get into the bathroom to use the
Yeah.
restroom, in my mind, in everyone's minds, it was the terrorists coming in to slay us all. And so
Yeah.
we're
Like,
all pushed up against this wall. I'm holding hands with my coworker who still has her napkin in her hand. And I just have that moment where it's not like my life flashed before my eyes, but I went silent. It was like everything stopped and time
yeah.
stretched, and it was a matter of seconds in reality. But what it felt like was just this long, this is it. Like, this
Hmm.
is it. And then my brain started going to strategy. We'll just drop and they'll think that they shot you, and then bodies will cover you. And, so I'm going through all of these
Hmm.
things in my head, probably from watching action movies. Luckily, it turns out that we were not being directly attacked. So, with that threat, this hotel staff decides that we need to leave, that the ballroom is no longer safe, that whatever is happening outside is eventually going to reach us, once we realized how widespread the attacks were. There's probably
Right.
100 people in this ballroom. And so they start lining us up by women and children first, like Titanic style.
Yeah.
And we go out these doors that lead to the streets. It just opens up to the streets of Mumbai. We have no plan. We have no direction. We have nowhere to go. We have no phone. We have no idea what we're going to do. So we
Hmm.
start filing out of the ballroom, women and children first. I am holding hands with my boss, my colleague, and we leave into the street and just start walking. We don't know where we're going. We're out there for maybe 3 to 5 minutes, and we have gunfire behind us, and people are getting shot, and everyone starts running. And it's this
Hmm.
huge mob. People are falling. Someone we were with fell, and I'm picking her up. And this was the moment at 22 that I really realized who I was. Before this, I lived a charmed life. I was very blessed with the things that I had. I had an easy life. I had just been in fashion school in LA, having a lot of fun. I didn't have the grit. I didn't have the edge that I gained that night, that I saw in myself. And it was while we were running through this street and people are falling and I'm bending down to help people up. And then we go into this like spiral parking garage, just
Okay.
to get out of like the open area.
Yeah.
And before we can get in, this mob pushes us all against this concrete wall. And it's like a stampede. Like people are being crushed, people are being pressed. My boss is directly in front of me and people are on her. Her face starts turning white. She can't breathe. I'm ripping people off of her, screaming, she can't breathe, she can't breathe. And I tapped into this strength that I didn't even know I had. My boss was 20 years my senior and she was crumbling, collapsing, freezing. And in terror, of course, you're going to fight, flight, freeze, fawn.
Yep.
One of those. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't even think about it. It was just me springing into action. And I saw this part of myself that was incredibly strong and brave and action oriented. And I just made the decision and I just decided to do things without even thinking about it. And I didn't freeze at all, which up until this point, like I was a baby. Like I was just like, I would cry all the time. I was very sensitive, easily get my feelings hurt. But this activated something in me, something that was dormant, something that I didn't know existed, that allowed me to see myself in a different light. And that whole night, I realized that I was a fucking badass. And wow, this is awful and this is terrible and people are dying and this is literal terror. There was also this part of me that realized that something was activated, that I had access to something that I didn't previously. And so we're still running through the streets. We hid in the parking garage for a little while, but that wasn't sustainable. There was still gunfire around us. We had to get out. And the people that we were having dinner with knew someone with an office nearby. So somehow we make it to this office and we go inside, lock the door, and turn on CNN, and it is global. This is being broadcast worldwide. And we really start getting a grasp for how serious it is, how widespread it is, how many people have already been killed. And the eeriest thing when we were in the streets was that it was silent besides the gunfire. There were no sirens, there was no traffic, there were no car horns, there were no alarms. It was silent. And if something similar had happened in the United States, it would be chaos, mayhem, sirens, fire trucks, ambulances, police, SWAT, FBI, like whoever. Like there would be shit going on. And it was this eerie silence that we later found out was just the commandos, the task force taking time to like get it together. And they don't have guns in India for their task force. They have like leather helmets and batons, and they weren't prepared for this level of siege, for how serious this was. And so we're in this office, we're watching CNN, and one of the women that we were with is pretty high up. She was very popular. She was once married to Prince, which is interesting. And so she gets on CNN and she starts giving an interview about what's going on, about what's happening, about what we've seen, about what we've experienced. And she is telling all of this live on CNN. And we spend the night, which no one slept, and we finally, at daybreak, make a run for it to my boss's aunt's house because she still has family in Mumbai. And so we're driving, and in someone's car, I don't even know whose car this is. I don't know if it was a taxi or someone came to pick us up. I don't even know. I don't remember, but we go to her house, we regroup, and we have to go to the U.S. Embassy because not only did we leave our phones and purses and wallets and identification at the restaurant, everything else that we own, our passports, luggage, everything is at the Taj, which is now on fire and being bombed, and they're in an all-night siege, and this goes on for 4 days total. So the morning of the second day, we go to the U.S. Embassy. My boss is a British citizen, so she goes to the British Embassy. We go to the U.S. Embassy. And while we're there trying to obtain emergency passports and care and a plan and a flight out and all of the things that you would hope that your home embassy would help you with,
Right.
the embassy gets bombed and someone throws a grenade over the wall. And so we cannot escape the terror, even when we are trying to escape and leave. It's impossible. And my mom loves telling the story. I don't really remember this part of it. I think I blacked out. But at the embassy, they had to charge us for our passports. So I had to call home and be like, you have to wire, or like, I don't even know how to get funds. So it was like $150 to the U.S. Embassy in Mumbai so that we could get our passports. And my mom said that I gave them such hell, that I was like really pissed that we had to pay for this. And they couldn't get us out on a flight. The airport was kind of shut down, but some flights were still going out. But our flight was in 5 days. And so the U.S. Embassy said, you just have to wait. We're going to put you up at a hotel outside of the city. And so that's what we did. And so we left the city and went to this hotel and just holed up and cried. And I was literally just with the clothes on my back. We didn't have anything. And we sent our clothes. My coworker and I sent our clothes to be washed because that we've been wearing them for like days at this point.
Yeah.
And they came back smelling worse than we sent them because we're in India. And we were glued to CNN, and we were calling home and racked up pretty hefty long distance bill on the hotel phone. But once that cleared and we finally got to the date that our flight was scheduled, we go to the airport and they're doing construction. So there's loud noises, banging, drilling, like all of these things. Were absolutely traumatized.
Yeah.
And every little noise sends us into these terrible flares of fear. So we finally board the plane. We land in New York for our layover. And I remember, I'll never forget this. I'm going through TSA with these silk jodhpuri pants, which are like crotchless. They kind of look like a skirt with they're gathered at the heel that I got in an Indian market, and like a spaghetti strap top. That's all I had. And I'm walking through TSA, through the metal detector, and the man standing there in New York says, "Oh, you look so free," because I'm like flowy and these pants are billowing, and he has no clue what I've just been through. And I just remember thinking, like, if you only knew, dude, like there is no way that you understand what I've just gone through, like the irony of that statement. And we land, my parents pick me up. I spend the next week crying in a stupor, unsure of what to do. The night terrors were awful. I think another thing in a situation like this, which unfortunately my story isn't uncommon these days with the mass shootings and wars and school shootings and so many things that we experience now, is the survivor's guilt. I didn't know that existed. And I didn't understand why I had been spared when so many hadn't, why I got to go home to my family when so many didn't. And that would keep me up at night, which was honestly a relief from the night terrors that would have me drenched in sweat and jolting awake. And I think that's a really under-discussed topic in terms of experiencing terror. And it's not something that's easily dealt with because nothing makes that better. Like, yes, of course, I'm grateful I didn't die a horrible death like so many did.
Right.
And I still felt profound guilt over it. And it was a part of PTSD that I truly didn't expect and didn't know how to manage. I didn't know how to manage any of this at all.
Right.
And that was one of the most unexpected things to come from this. And then we had FBI mandated therapy, and I had to go through several meetings and debriefs with the FBI because we were an American in a foreign land during a terrorist attack. So there were several meetings with the FBI and mandated talk therapy, which at that point I just told them what they wanted to hear so they would leave me
Yeah.
alone, because that was not what I wanted or what I needed or what was going to be helpful.
Or the
And
right time,
no,
like
I mean, it was like the
they
week after.
right. That happened to me too. They want to push you into something really quick. And I did
Yeah,
exactly what you do. You're like, I'm not going to go into this right now.
I'm fine.
So I'm just exactly, I'm
Yep.
fine.
I'm
I'm
good.
fine.
I'm
I'm fine.
okay. I'm going to
Good.
deal with it. I'll get the help I need, but otherwise, like, get out of here because this is not helpful at all. So I try to go back to work, and that just doesn't work. I'm in a stupor, just staring at the wall all day, can't get really anything done. And this is now 2009, and the recession is in full swing. And not only have we just experienced a terrorist attack, but fashion isn't really a necessity during a recession. And so the company isn't doing well. So I get fired a month after surviving India, or I guess 2 months after.
Oof.
And because before that, which I think is part of the reason that I got fired, but before that, we'd been home a month from India and my boss had to go back because we didn't finish production. We didn't finish sampling. We didn't get to finish because we still had 5 days left in India and a lot planned.
Right.
And she asked me to go back, and I was like, no fucking way. Like, I'm not doing it. But I was really torn about it. And part of me was like, I really appreciate this job. I loved everything before this. I see where this is going. And I
Right.
had this need to please. I wanted to go. I wanted to do it. But a larger part of me was like, girl, it's not worth it. Like, what you're going to have to endure, what you're going to be dredging up that you haven't even yet processed. It's
Right.
not something to do. So I said no. A month after that, I got fired. So here I
Oh,
am in the middle of a recession, fresh out of college. My roommate had just passed away. Then I get into this terrorist attack and I have no clue who I am. I have no clue what to do. I have no direction. I have no support. I mean, my parents are supportive, of course, but like they don't know what to
right.
do with me. They're
Right.
just like
Yeah.
happy that I'm home, and I didn't want to
They're
do
doing
talk
their best.
therapy. Yeah, they're doing their
Yeah.
best. They're loving me. They're holding me, but couldn't talk about anything at that point yet either. I was so young too. Like at
Yeah.
that point, you think you're so old, but you're the oldest you've ever been, of course,
Yeah.
but you're
Exactly.
still a child. And
Yeah.
so I just really didn't know what to do with myself. And I tried acupuncture, I tried a couple other things, and nothing was like moving the needle for me. And
Hmm.
eventually, my mom had been getting regular massages because she had a kink in her shoulder or whatever. And the
Yeah.
masseuse also did Reiki. Are you familiar with what Reiki is?
A little bit. We've had a couple individuals on who've spoken about it, but yeah, I've heard more and more of how beneficial it is. How did it help you?
Well, it's energy healing. So I go
Yeah.
into this woman's office and she sits me down. I tell her everything that I'm going through. She obviously knows a bit about it from my mom's appointments with her. So I'm telling her this whole story and she's like, okay, lay down. She puts a blanket over me and she was like, this is like a massage, but I'm not going to touch you. And I was like, you're not going to touch me. Like, this isn't going to do anything. Like, what bullshit? This is a
Right.
waste of time. This
What I
isn't going to
pay for.
help. What did I pay? Well, she actually did it for free, which was very nice.
Okay.
But I was like, this isn't good. Like, this is just a bunch of bullshit, hocus pocus at that point. And I laid down. The blanket is over me, and I'm peeking, trying to see if I can guess where her hands are, if I can like intuit where her hands are.
Yeah.
So she's moving around my body, and it's energy healing. So in Reiki, they don't touch you. They're using
Yeah.
ancient modalities and these symbols that they like visualize in their mind and then move your energy through your body. And so this is happening, and I'm like peeking around to see where she's at. The session ends. I go home, and I'm like, okay, well, let's check that box.
Hmm.
I go to sleep. I wake up in the next morning, and I'm like, la, la, la. Like, this is me again. The birds are chirping. The sun is shining. Like, I feel 10,000 pounds lighter. I feel like
Really?
I have accessed something in myself that I forgot existed, because at this point it was like 4 or 5 months later
Yeah.
and I had no relief. I was still having night terrors, extreme PTSD, super heavy survivor's guilt, just like shaking in my body, vibrating at
Yeah.
all times. And this was the first time that I realized that there was a shift, that there was something notable that was different. And in my 22-year-old mind, I was like, I'm healed. That's it. That's all I have to do. I don't ever have to touch this shit again. And thank God. So it worked. And it also put me into a place of thinking that that was all I had to do, that there was nothing else to be done. And so I start coping by drinking, by doing recreational drugs, by smoking a lot of weed, by partying just all the time. Then I started traveling a lot, kind of trying to prove to myself, like, I'm not going to be held back by this. I'm not going to not travel because of this. So I have like this vendetta to prove to the world. And I spend the next decade of my 20s traveling, drinking, partying, sex, just all of the things, and not ever addressing it until, unless I got drunk enough to cry about it to some stranger or one of my friends who would listen. That was the only time that I really ever talked about it. So this goes on for another 10 years. And at the 10-year anniversary in 2018 of the attacks, I had a full breakdown. I had this anticipation building up to the 10-year anniversary that I was like, this is big and this is really meaningful. And it was like this passageway, this portal, this threshold that I was crossing, this milestone that meant a lot. It meant a lot to India. It meant a lot to the survivors. It meant a lot to the people affected and injured. And it carried a lot of weight. And my aunt had saved a front page of the New York Times for me that had the Taj in flames and said terror in Mumbai. And I pull that out, and it's like I wanted to dig into the darkness. Like I wanted to see what I could conjure up or what I could access. And at this point, I had started a spiritual company, a popular podcast. We were doing retreats. We had a membership community where we led classes. So I was all in the spiritual world. I had left the fashion industry, worked a little bit in marketing at the time, but really I was just working any job to get enough money to buy a one-way ticket somewhere. And by this time I was 32 and I had been running this company for a couple years. It was doing really well, but I had this dichotomy within me that yes, I'm leading this spiritual company and I am helping a lot of people, and I'm not accessing my shit. I'm not looking at my shit, and I am not addressing the darkness within me. And I dove in. I had that full breakdown on my knees, hyperventilating, crying, just feeling the pain of the loss, of the grief, of the guilt, of the time that I spent avoiding it. And I started doing shadow work. And shadow work is just the process of looking at your shit, looking at your trauma, looking at your pain, your triggers, your patterns, and actually holding space for them. And it wasn't until I invited this giant, dark trauma that I'd locked away in a basement and thrown away the key to sit at my table with me and just say, tell me everything, and just sit there and listen. It wasn't until I did that I realized that the fear of accessing it was way greater than actually accessing it, than actually looking at it, than actually listening to it. So that's a
great statement.
Yeah, that avoidance created a monster much bigger than what it was in reality. And I hear this monster behind this door banging to be let out. And I have breakdowns when I cry or when I drink. I get angry when I drink, or like all of these things connected to alcohol that's the only time that I let my emotions out. Otherwise, I'm like buttoned up, everything's fine, nothing to see here. But there's this monster down below, like rattling the entire building. And I finally take the chains off the door, unbar it, and I open it, and it turns out that it's like this little monster, right? It just sounded big, and the fear of it was bigger. And once I let it out, then I was talking about it all the time. My first book came out, which was over here, Soul Magic, Ancient Wisdom for Modern Mystics. So I was on a PR tour, and I was talking about it all the time. people would
Mhm.
ask me, what was your spiritual awakening? And I was like, well, I was in a terrorist attack in India, and I would tell the story, and letting it breathe, bringing it to light gave
Mhm.
me so much healing, and it allowed me to truly get into why I was avoiding it, what I was so afraid that I would find, all of the coping mechanisms that I created that just caused more trouble in my life, in my body, in my relationships. And I uncovered everything. And like you were saying, like looking under those rocks, like this was the
Yeah.
rock that I needed to look under. That was the biggest boulder, but it was
Mhm.
hollow. It was easy to lift. And what I found underneath was gold. Like all of what I realized was I could finally understand why I had the reaction that I did because I was so young and I didn't process it and I didn't deal with it and I just wanted it to go away. So I buried it under alcohol and drugs
Yeah.
and sex and travel. And what I really needed was to love it and was to accept it as part of me. It's never going to go
Mm.
away. I am never going to be without this. At every anniversary on the 26th of November, I feel weight. I feel grief. I feel heaviness because of what I experienced, because of thinking of all of the families affected, all of the people who didn't make it home. And I
Right.
allow myself to feel that. I cry. I look at the paper or I look up articles online and see who else is celebrating, acknowledging in a sense. And I allow it to live. And that has been the most healing part of all of this, and it taught me to dive in to the darkness,
Mhm.
to trust the void, and to know that I will always come out alive and stronger with tools that I didn't know that I could access
Yeah.
because I've allowed myself to see that darkness and to love it.
Yeah. I love the saying, and it helped me kind of make that transition because I was so scared to even face the things, you know what I mean? Like, having to talk about what it was like and what was going on inside my head. I wanted to keep that to myself, keep myself really small, you know what I mean? I'm
Uh-huh.
fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. But it's just so interesting that we can take the worst moment and think it's so scary that we don't even want to process it. But then when you take that first step, you realize that the lake you've been looking at the whole time is a mile wide, but only an inch deep. And someone said that to me. I was like, that makes so much sense because you're
Yeah.
so scared to take that step. And then you step and you're like, oh, I can actually step here. And then you step and then you step. And,
Yeah. You're
that
drowning in knee deep water. Just stand up.
exactly. And I love what you said. The beast is actually this big. You've in your head been like, oh my gosh, this thing's going to be enormous. It's going to rip me apart. It's going to damage me. It could potentially damage others. And then you just had enough and you open the door and you let those feelings come over you. That's another recurring theme that I keep hearing from people. One person who really stands out to me is we had an individual on who had 10 plus strokes. So he's wheelchair bound, can't move, and he's in a tremendous amount of pain all the time. And I was like, what do you do? And he said, I feel the pain. I let it wash over me. I feel it. And guess what? After a while, it's gone compared
Mhm.
to running from it and hoping it goes away and always knowing it's chasing like behind you. And I was like, wow, that's really, really powerful. Just facing it. After I got shot, I actually suddenly had a fear of heights, which was really weird. Like at
Hmm.
any time, like I even looked up at a building, I was like, I got that feeling I was going to fall over. And we decided we were in London for Christmas one year. And my wife said, what do you want to do today? I was like, I want to go to the tallest building in London. And I basically crawled off the elevator. But by the end of it, I was able to go up to the glass. I was able to jump against the glass and even start getting silly with it. And it's just so weird
Yeah.
what that can do, like the breakthrough, just facing the thing is it's unbelievable. And by the end of it, I wasn't afraid of fears or
Yeah.
heights. And I've flown a plane since, and like all kinds of stuff. So it's really weird what your brain is trying to do. It's trying to
It's
protect
trying to
you.
protect you.
Yeah, it's trying to
Yeah, and
limit
it doesn't
exposure.
The reason that you don't want to go into the darkness, into the dungeon that you've locked away is because it's unknown. Your brain is a
Right.
pattern recognition machine. It wants to
Mm,
stay in the known and the familiar. It is consistently scanning your environment and recognizing patterns. And so you go towards what's familiar. The
yeah.
unfamiliar is accessing that trauma because you're so afraid of what you might find, of what you might do, of what it might do to you, of what it might mean about you. So many people have trauma that they're deeply ashamed of, and that
Yeah.
means something about them that they then think that they have to accept, that this puts me in this category now. But the
Yeah.
brain doesn't want to let you go there, and doesn't want to let you see what might be, because the unknown is dangerous. Between the brain and the ego, you are
Yeah.
staying in the familiar known. Even if it's killing you, you will
Yep.
stay there, because the rest, we don't know what's going to happen. So we're just not going to find out.
Yeah, I've heard that we will choose to stick with pain, familiar pain, over going into the unknown because
Yeah.
we know it, at least we can handle that pain, and we don't know if we can handle the other pain, but it's
Yeah, you're
usually a
like, well, this is at least familiar. I know how to manage this. I can get through the
yep,
day. I don't know if I can get through the day if I look at this trauma and this pain and see what it's actually doing for me, you know?
right.
So it's a serious, it is in the sense that it's all in your head, that you create something that doesn't exist. And I created a fear around accessing this trauma, around what the monster actually was.
Yeah,
The trauma wasn't in my head. The experience obviously was in my head, but what happened after was. And I spent an entire decade avoiding what I created and
yeah,
creating something that wasn't real. And once I
yeah,
accessed it, I was like, oh my God, what else is in here? Like, what else can I address and look at? And my work is now completely centered around shadow work. I'm writing my second book on shadow work. My entire career
awesome,
is centered around shadow work. My podcast is centered around shadow work, because of India. And then because I lost my dad at the end of 2024 to cancer. My husband went to rehab for alcohol and is now 2 years sober, 2 years plus.
awesome,
And so all of these happened at the same time. And I was like, what have I learned from trauma? What have I learned that I can now apply here and move through this in real time, rather than
hmm
put it away in that closet and be like, I can't deal with this right now. And
yeah,
with the thousands of people that I worked with in shadow work, it's the same theme. We create something bigger than what's actually there. And once we address it, once we get past that shame, like I had great shame over the fact that I never addressed India, that I didn't work on it, that I didn't go to therapy. I had shame that I would get drunk and cry about it, and I couldn't even talk about it in the daylight.
right,
And that shame shrouded me in more darkness. It blocked out the sun, and I thought the light had abandoned me. But from my
yeah,
perspective, it was a storm. Just like the sun, it's never not shining. It might be dark in the middle of the day because we have a storm. Once those
yeah,
clouds clear, you realize that from your perspective, it was always there. It was always accessible. It was always
yeah,
waiting for you. This is why I don't believe in a dark night of the soul. The soul doesn't experience a dark night. The ego does. The ego is the person standing on the surface of the earth, looking up, seeing clouds, and thinking, the soul has abandoned me. The soul
hmm
just can't get its light cannot shine through those clouds at that moment. And the more that you perpetuate that storm, the more that you're going to think that you're alone, that you've been abandoned, that no one is coming to save you. And honestly, no one is. You have to save yourself. But there is no dark night of the soul. The soul doesn't experience darkness. The ego does. And so we think that this is a totally different thing than what it actually is. And really, we are just experiencing a storm that blocks out the light temporarily.
yeah, and you're really speaking to the person who's been through it or going through it, because really when you get put in a situation where it's life or death, I mean, until you've been there, things are, what am I trying to say? Things change, you know? And when
Hmm.
you're going through something that traumatic, it's not as easy as everyone else is seeing the situation. Everyone else is seeing the situation from a bird's eye view with distance. Oh, if I were in your situation, this is what I would do. This is what I would advise. This is what you should do, all this kind of stuff. But when you're going through it, you're just trying to survive. You're
Hmm.
just trying to get through the day. And so a lot of times we'll use earthly things. So I used alcohol, drugs, whatever it may be, to numb that feeling, to numb that memory. I'm trying to get away from this. The farther I can get away from this, the better I feel. And if this substance takes me farther away from it today, great, because I'm not
Yeah.
worried about tomorrow.
Load me up.
Yeah, because I don't care about tomorrow.
No,
Tomorrow
it
I'll
doesn't
figure it out.
matter.
But
Yeah.
today I am going to make sure that I'm okay. And I am
Hmm.
not gonna, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
the closer you are to the traumatic incident, the harder it is. Because I think the word storm really fits the issue,
Yeah.
because it's not as simple as like just something happened. It's like the whole world is upside down.
Yeah.
And I appreciate all these people trying to tell me what to do, get used to a new normal, send me to a place. But like, honestly, I would say the first 6 months after I got shot, I wasn't ready really to do anything. I,
No,
I could,
it's
I
too
couldn't even,
soon.
I couldn't even figure out. I wasn't sure if I was alive. I would
Yeah.
literally have conversations with my wife and be like, "Am I dead?" And she's like, "No,
Hmm.
you're alive." And I'd say, "Well, how am I alive?" And she would say, "Because I can see you. That means you're alive." I go, "Well, if I'm in purgatory, isn't that exactly what you'd say to me anyways?" So I was
Yeah.
really kind of like on the border of like reality for a little bit. I even had a weird thought that if I shot myself again and I survived, then I know I was alive. Like
Yeah.
that is a weird thought. And I was going to shoot through my cheek and try to go out the other side. So I was going to lose my teeth, but I was at that
You'd
point
at
where I
least
was
know
just
you were
like,
alive. Well, it's crazy the deals that your brain will try to make with itself. Like, okay, well, if I do this, then this, and you
yeah,
really are negotiating with your trauma.
yeah, exactly. And that, yeah, that's funny how that works. It also works that way for
Hmm.
me when I started getting into spirituality and Christianity or whatever it may be, a higher power. It was more like in the negotiation table. It's like, I'll be sober today, but you got to
Yeah.
come through with this,
Yeah.
or I'll do this, but you got to do this. Like this is a
Hmm.
give and take. I need to know you're there. And now I'm just grateful for anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like
Yeah,
unbelievable how
absolutely.
the world can change on you. And the world
Hmm.
actually didn't change. My
No.
mindset changed
Yes. Your
and the way I
environment
see it.
stays the same. Of course, maybe the substances that you put in your body change, but
Yes.
it
Yep.
it is an internal shift which changes your external environment because you see things differently and you allow yourself to actually be immersed in the present. I was constantly trying to escape the present because the present
Mhm.
and the past were full of things that I was not equipped to handle, nor did I want to
Yeah.
try. So the
Right.
present was dangerous. The past was where the danger came from and was perpetuating and plaguing me. The
Yeah.
present was just unbearable. The future, like, who knows? I wasn't even thinking there. I couldn't even really, like, think that far into the future. And once
Yeah.
you get into this place where you change your perspective, the present is a gift and it is so beautiful. And I can stretch time now and I can meditate and be in these insane internal states that are full of love and light and heart expanding. And my head is tingling and I'm having this visceral reaction to my meditations. And that is what I was not allowing myself to experience for an entire decade.
Have you ever thought to yourself that you wouldn't be where you are now if not for the incident?
Oh, I mean, it feels really fucked up to say that I'm grateful that it happened because so many people died. In my case, it's harder to be grateful, but I'm
Yeah,
grateful
I'm
every
sorry I
day.
didn't.
No, it's fine. I 100% am grateful that I experienced it. And even when I was right when I was home, I had this like out of body like wisdom perspective where I was like, you were meant to experience it, you were meant to survive it, and you were meant to do something with it. I had no
Yeah.
idea what I was going to do with it at that time, but I
Mhm.
knew that the first two were unequivocally true. And it took
Mhm.
time to unravel my life, to move through trauma, to decide what I was going to do. But now everything that I do is because of India. Everything that I am is because of India. Everything that I
Yeah.
know about myself and who I am and what I'm capable of is because
Hmm.
of India.
Yeah. That's powerful. Even the way
It
you
really
love can
is.
be affected. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah. I couldn't
now,
fully love anyone else because I wasn't loving myself. And shadow work, if anything, is
mm,
just self-love. You're allowing yourself to love all of the bits of yourself that you deem unlovable, that you deem shameful, that you deem just wrong
yeah,
against what society perceives as right. And once you start loving yourself through that, then I'm a cup that overfloweth. I can pour love into everybody, and I run communities of hundreds of people working on this too. And showing up for them is showing up for myself. And you realize that this connection that you have to you is like a circuit board that sends energy out. But if you're not connected here first, nothing outside is going to work. It's all going to be cattywampus and you're going to be trying way too hard. I think
yeah,
what I realized was that I thought that shadow work was going to be hard. Like, yes, it's difficult, it's challenging, it's painful, but it's not the kind of work that I thought it was going to be. It flows a lot easier because I'm allowing it. And all it
right.
wanted to do was to be allowed, to be acknowledged. And the energy that it took to avoid it was
Mm,
way greater than it is to open that door and let it come into my life.
yeah, yeah. Wow. Very well said. It's, when you go through a storm like that, there's a period of time, at least I felt in my heart, I was like, this defines me. This thing that I
Yeah.
went through defines me.
Oh,
And
yeah.
now in
It
no
becomes your
way,
identity.
yeah. And now I know in no way does it define me. Actually, if
No.
anything, I've come out a better product. Like we talked about earlier, like I handled a childhood trauma that I know would have taken me out at some point
Mhm.
because I had that shame inside, that idea of like, this is who I am. This happened to me at 5 years old. This is what that adult said. This is who I am. Shame's like an
Yeah.
identity. And I've
Mhm.
been able to go back and work with that child and sit with that child and talk to that child and like working through it. And it's important. Like it's important to
Yeah,
go back and look at those secrets. The secrets keep you sick a lot of the times.
they
And
do.
and a lot of times those of us who are alcoholic or drug addicts or addiction and wherever it shows up, everyone's saying just stop. It's like it's not that so much. Well, now when I was an alcoholic and at my worst, I was physically addicted to alcohol, but I was more mentally addicted to it for the longest time because of the relief it gave me.
Mhm.
The option, it
Yeah.
was my pause button. I just hit it and I just kept hitting it every day,
Well, it
but it got
quiets
harder
the
to push.
static.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
But then it gets
that's
harder to push.
something that the identity piece is something that I don't think a lot of people understand about trauma. Your body understands it, your brain understands it, but you're not conscious about it. It's in your subconscious, and your subconscious says, "Who am I without this? Who am I if I let this go?" And I experienced that soon after India, that part of me enjoyed the attention that I got from people after. Part of me enjoyed the pedestal that I was put on because it was this international broadcast globally attack that made me in a sense special, right? I felt special because of it. And after I was like, well, who am I without that? Then I'm just some girl again, right? I go
Right.
from being this special person where everybody sees me differently now. And if I don't center my life around this, then who am I? And what am I without this? And the brain wants to connect to that identity. And because it's formed in trauma, that adherence, that connection with the brain and the trauma is so strong that that identity is like really unwilling to let go. And when you do start challenging it, your ego is going to fight like hell to keep that identity connected and to keep that idea of who you are because of it, with it, because without it, then we're floating, we're floundering, we're disconnected, we're unmoored, right? We're a buoy out to sea. But when we
Yeah.
have that connection to trauma, and we at least know who we are with this, but without it, who knows?
Yeah.
But that's the potential. That's jumping off the cliff and thinking, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to find out who I am outside of this because I am so much more than what happened to me. This
Yeah.
happened for me, and I need to see it as that. Otherwise, it will keep you constrained and constricted your entire life.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot easier said than done, especially if you're out there listening and you're in your own storm right now. But I'm telling you, although it's a bummer,
Mhm.
everyone who comes on here says facing it or feeling it is the way through.
Yep.
I also like the I heard something recently. It's like the idea of the buffalo. The buffalo is the only animal that actually will run to a storm and through a storm because it knows that it'll be a shorter span in the storm. Everything else will sit down or hide, but the buffaloes run straight through it. And I was like, that's kind of interesting. The idea that, yeah, this is going to suck, but might as well just make it a shorter process.
When you're built like a tank, like a buffalo, it's easier to move through that storm, I'm sure, than if you're a mouse or a bird who does have to
That's
hide.
true. That's true. That's true.
But I get the analogy. I think
Yeah.
it definitely worth it.
Yeah, for sure. And Morgan, you shared so much. What would you say to a person who's stuck in their own shit creek right now and who's feeling hopeless? Any words of advice?
Nothing is permanent. Nothing lasts forever. And I think when you're in it, you think it's going to be like this forever. You think there's no way out, that there's no way that it won't ever be like this. And nothing is permanent, not your joy, not your money, not your health. The impermanence of life is a gift and a curse. And when you're in something that is so terribly dark and consuming, and you think it is going to be like this forever, and you've convinced yourself to just set up shop, change your address, you live here now, allow yourself to wonder, what if it wasn't? What if I did come out of this and I did give myself another chance at light and love and connection and passion and purpose? Because when you're in it, I get that. I've been there. You convince yourself that you're never going to be away from this, and that it's going to be something that is so consuming for the rest of your life that it'll never end. But my dad, specifically, because it's so recent, has been dead just over a year right now. And at that year mark, everyone told me it's going to get better. It's just get to that year. The first year is the worst. And of course, the first year was terrible. And then it gets easier. And just like with India, once I looked at it, it got easier. And with my husband going to rehab, I thought our relationship would never be the same again. And it's better. And I thought,
Right.
it's always going to be like this. It's always going to be this shitty. It's always going to be us at each other. It's always going to be me filled with so much anger because it was a secret. And it doesn't last. And
Yeah.
the impermanence is something that you can count on. Change and death are the only constants in life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good to know the reality. So that way your mind doesn't wander and try to create something else.
Yeah.
Well, Morgan, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us on Shit Creek Survivors. We will make sure that we put all your information in the bio, and that way people can reach out to you potentially for help, if that's all right with you. And we'll make sure that we got your books in there. That way people can access your information as well, and potentially reach out to you and get some business going and work some shadow work with you. That would be very, very cool. Yeah, very
Thanks,
cool.
Cameron. I appreciate it. It's always hard to tell this story. I'm sweaty, but I know it's really important. And every time I tell it, I heal something else in my heart and my body and my soul that I didn't know I needed. So thank you for this opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Survival isn't the end of the story. Sometimes it's just the beginning. If you're in your own shit creek right now, you are not alone. If this episode resonated, like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs it. And remember, no matter how deep the water feels, there's always a paddle.